So they're opposing labeling, not just because it creates choice and they're afraid that their products will not be bought, but also because labeling is the key way we can trace the health effects of genetically engineered foods and the key way to get the corporations liable for these health effects.
Los japoneses están muy preocupados por los efectos de los alimentos genéticamente modificados. Un oficial de gobierno declaró: observaremos a los niños de Estados Unidos durante los próximos 10 años. Además de afirmar que sus productos son seguros, la industria biotecnológica aseguró que aumentaría la productividad.
Advances in biotechnology can help us produce more food on land we already cultivate or on land that's currently unsuitable for farming.
Monsanto submitted a regulatory package to both the FDA and the EPA for Roundup Ready soybeans, the first really big commercial crop. It's really very curious, how shallow actually the science was. They didn't look at routine stresses, drought, plant pathogens, other things that, soybean plants deal with in the environment. In the year 2000, a team of scientists based at the University of Arkansas documented decreases in the size of the root system, and under droughty conditions, these reductions were 25%. Now that 25% impairment is going to translate into several bushels of lost yield in any part of the world. It's a very big impact. The other gap in the regulatory reviews was that no one bothered to explore the impact of the spraying of Roundup over the top of soybean plants on the capacity of the soybean plant to affix nitrogen. And it's one of the most important environmental benefits of soybeans. It's a legume, like peas, so you don't have to put nitrogen fertilizer in your garden when you're growing peas or soybeans. And we're only now starting to study this because farmers have observed problems in some fields with Roundup Ready soybeans. I mean, they just did terrible and couldn't explain why.
Una de las amenazas a la productividad son las supermalezas, que se han vuelto resistentes a herbicidas como Roundup. En el 2003, una supermaleza se propagó por 21 estados. Los agricultores ahora usan químicos más peligrosos, como el 2,4-D, similar al agente naranja, que causa malformaciones congénitas. En lugar de rociar menos herbicidas, rocían más. Pero ¿cómo una tecnología tan controvertida logró el visto bueno del gobierno?
At the end of the first Bush administration, George Bush's administration, Dan Quayle ran something called the Competitiveness Council.
We will ensure that biotech products will receive the same oversight as other products, instead of being hampered by unnecessary regulation.
What Quayle's council recommended is that there be no regulation at all for these foods. This outraged FDA scientists. There is voluminous documentation showing that FDA scientists said this food needs to be tested. This food can be toxic. This food can create new allergens. The genetic engineering process, the cell invasion technique that is genetic engineering, can lower nutrition. It can have create immune problems in laboratory animals. All these things need to be tested, much less the environmental effects. But Dan Quayle and his council said, no way. We want to be the first in the world to market this food. FDA still said no. So what do? They brought in a deputy commissioner for food policy, a man named Michael Taylor. And Michael Taylor used to work at King & Spalding as Monsanto's senior counsel there. He had written up the industry regulations, which were basically no regulations, and of course, he allowed this no regulation policy to become official U.S. policy in 1992.
Monsanto employees and government regulatory agency employees are the same people. And to give you one example, there's countless names on this list, but one that kind of stands out to me, the biggest, is Linda Fisher. Linda Fisher, for the past 7 years, has been an executive vice president for Monsanto Corporation. She is now the deputy minister for the EPA, also as a deputy minister under George Bush Sr.'s administration. Prior to that, she was with Monsanto. And prior to that, she was with the EPA. She's been back and forth 3 times. And the list goes on and on like that in Washington. I have written a letter to our Attorney General, John Ashcroft, and I begged him for help with this monumental crisis that farmers are facing and we're facing. His response was that it is not their policy to get involved in private litigation matters. I have since learned that Mr. John Ashcroft has submitted a brief to the U.S. Supreme Court regarding a similar patent infringement case to be heard in October. He preyed upon the Supreme Court to uphold these new plant patents to protect the corporations that own the patents. Upon learning this, I also learned that Mr. Ashcroft had received the largest campaign contribution that Monsanto gave any 2000 political candidate in his failed bid for Senate re-election.
Deregulate, which is basically telling from the executive branch everybody to look the other way.
Ahora las empresas mismas hacen las pruebas y reportan sus resultados al gobierno. Es un proceso voluntario.
If we started really asking the right questions, we would stop this technology for the next 50 or 100 years.
Pero ha ocurrido precisamente lo contrario. En los Estados Unidos, la canola, el maíz, el algodón y la soya genéticamente modificadas, inexistentes en los 80s, se cultivaron en 1.5 millones de hectáreas en 1996. Esa cifra aumentó a 40 millones de hectáreas en el 2003. En 1998, México prohibió el cultivo de maíz genéticamente modificado para proteger su patrimonio agrícola.
In Mexico, there are literally hundreds of varieties of corn. Some of them are adapted to